Cheerio, and welcome. Today we're going to show you how to shave like a gentleman. We know that you Yanks don't always do it so well, so we're going to show you today on Barber Dave's Barber Shop at Home.
Over time I noticed there's nothing about this that ever feels quite normal. Kinda like we're always in a free fall. And if I had a time machine, I'd tell you, darling, it's not gonna be so bad. But knowing me, I wouldn't.
Hey everybody, welcome to part 2 of our shaves across the decades. Today we were doing 1900 through 1910. But before we get started, please don't forget www.theshavingcadre.com, and right over here somewhere, come and see us at Drinks and Dave's on YouTube. That's our secondary channel, but it's being shown right here. But on the 7th, we have our next live show. And then right down here, please like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and you will get notifications of any new content. You know, something just doesn't feel right since we're going to be in the 1900s. Oh, yeah. Hello. Welcome to Bringland. Bringland? Yes, England. And no, I'm not going to continue my British accent because I'm sure some of my viewers from Britain are going to say, Dave, give it up. Okay, so thanks so much for all the support for yesterday's video. It was a lot of fun. Today we're going to be heading over to jolly old England, but in doing some of my research, I realized that a lot of internet research is dead wrong. Datelines are all over the place. Timelines are all over the place. And what I did find out yesterday is Williams mug show has been produced since the 1850s. However, it didn't really go out west, so that's why I didn't use it, and most barbers weren't using it. However, for today, I did find a soap via New York City that it was made. In fact, the patent for that came out in 1906, and that was Colgate Cake Soap. Now, I have a later version, but it still fits roughly the time frame, and it's the Colgate Cup Soap. And then later, Colgate became Colgate Mug Soap. Now, a lot of conjecture says that, oh, that's just a rebranded Williams. No, Colgate Palmolive did their own thing, and plus the Palmolive Shave Sticks came out a little bit later. So this is period... it was made during that time. This puck, I am guessing, is around 1920, 1930. It's a brand new box, brand new, or I should say vintage box, and it was 15 cents at the time. So that fits the 1920s, 1930s, I think. But this was part of my father-in-law's. He had this in a whole bunch of stuff, which we'll go into when we get into the 50s and 60s. But this was in here as well, and it was never used. I do have a period-specific shaving mug that the cup fills right into. And then we're using the same brushes we used yesterday because it's still period-specific. And for the razor, this razor was actually manufactured. Again, doing research, it's very hard to date items, but more than likely, in all the research I've done and looking at other razors, this razor was built anywhere between 1880 and 1905. In there, it's more than likely in the 1870s to 1900, and that's a George Wolstenholme & Sons IXL Celebrated 8/8 for barber use. So it was a barber style razor, and it's got a nice little sweep back on it. It's a beautiful razor, heavy grind, quarter hollow. But when doing my research, I noticed that Wolstenholme used to be just Wolstenholme with an E, and then it changed to Wolstenholme & Sons right around the late 1800s, early 1900s. So this is a period-specific razor. As far as the aftershave, of course, witch hazel. Thayer's has been around since the 1860s, so we're going to be using that because witch hazel was the primary aftershave for most people, unless you lived in the cosmopolitan areas, which is exactly what we're doing today. Interestingly enough, I found an ad that, and you can look it up, and just type in Listerine as an aftershave, and it will blow your mind, because there is an ad that says use Listerine, the brown Listerine, for aftershave. And I started thinking about it. I said, that stuff's disgusting. And then I thought about it. I said, well, yeah, it's disgusting in your mouth, but it's meant to kill germs. It's meant to be an antiseptic. So maybe all these years that we've been spending money on expensive aftershaves, we can go down to Wally World and buy a gallon of Listerine for $3.99 and use that as aftershave. More experimentation may be necessary. We'll see. But we're going to use something that some people love, something that some people hate. And that is, yes, say it with me, Knights of the Veg Table. Panade Lilac Vegetal. Now, this is not period specific, but it is. Because believe it or not, this was made back in the 1700s. And then through the 1800s, 1900s, it was available from a French manufacturer, obviously Panade, and it was called Lilas de France. Same exact formulation. Obviously, it's changed a little bit, but we're going to use Lilac Vegetal. And another thing I found out that was very interesting is Floris, who is a very, very well-known, as you know, with my stuff, a very well-known British shave house and perfumery. Believe it or not, the Elite was at in the 1900s, early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s. So Floris Elite was available in a cologne. It wasn't available in Eau de Toilette yet, but that's what I'm going to be using. So we're kind of period specific, and we'll go from there. And yes, you only have to survive black and white and this vintage look two more times, and then we'll get back to color. Surprisingly, now obviously this is a tallow, but this mug is full of soap. Oh, this is wonderful. And like I said, I've shaved with the Palmolive shave sticks before, but never with a vintage puck of Colgate. And this stuff, oh, it is wonderful. Thick, creamy. Typical tallow. But I hate to say this because my Williams people are going to be really mad at me. But for a vintage soap, now I do also later on, when we get into the 50s, I've got some Schulten vintage Old Spice soap and cologne, so we'll be using that. But I gotta say, and I do have a puck of the tallow Williams as well. Overall, to be quite honest with you, this stuff's better. Just a beautiful, beautiful lather. Wow. And like I said, this soap probably is, well, I don't think it's time specific other than the fact that it was made then, because the patent for this stuff didn't come out till 1906. Now, Colgate did have a shaving powder, but the hard Colgate cake soap came out. So I'm guessing this is probably 1920s maybe. Hard to say. But what it produces as far as lather is just phenomenal. So I don't feel so bad about the guys back in the day anymore, because it seems like through the research that I've done, as I said, there's dates all over the place. Everybody's a historian. What's right, what's wrong, who knows? Because it's the internet. Everything's right on the internet. But this is, in the 1900s, the early 1900s, is when you started to see everything just start to go crazy as far as perfumery for men. There's a really neat site, and of course now I can't remember it, but it's on the internet, that shows, it's a fragrance site, and what it shows is it shows the year all the way back to the I think it goes back to the 1700s actually, and it shows for that year what perfumes and colognes and stuff like that came out. And it's really an eye-opening. Most of the stuff I've never even heard of. But there are some fragrances in there, believe it or not, because you had Panade, you had Creed. Creed was one of the earliest for men. Then you had Penhaligon's Floris. at different time frames. Now, what I've noticed is that the time frame around 1910 onward was an explosion for men. I mean, the ladies' perfumes have been going for a while, but 1910 seemed to be when a lot of your British houses really started going nuts as far as fragrance. And one of those we'll be shaving with tomorrow when we do our 1910 to 1920s. And I'm super excited because I didn't know that. I'm not going to give that away. You guys are just going to have to tune in tomorrow. This shave is going famously. Also in the comments, if you're liking this series, let me know, because I'm going to make this a playlist after it's all done. Kind of like I did my my shaving tutorial series. Also, kind of a fun thing to do. In the comment section, take a guess on what the costume will be for tomorrow. Think of the time period. So tomorrow will be 1910 through 1920. That decade. So take a guess and see which you think it will be. So just put that in the comment section. This razor is a beast. I have another one similar to this that's 8/8 that I use in the shop because that one's a wedge, and I use that for people that have very, very heavy beards. And I need to apologize to my fellow Knights of the Veg Table. I have not used Lilac Vegetal or Lilles de France in a long time. So I need to, for those of you that have been around the forums since the early days, will know that when I say Knights of the Veg Table, it is a reference to whether you are chosen. And what do I mean by that? Well, just like the knights of old and the Knights of the Round Table, the Lady of the Lake, or in this case, the Goddess of the Green, needs to choose you. Now, how are you chosen? Well, a lot of it depends on whether or not you get the smell of cat urine and urinal pucks when you wear it. Just like people that eat broccoli, that it tastes like soap, and then you get some people that eat cilantro that it tastes like bleach. It all depends on your olfactory. Now, I was chosen originally because it's just a wonderful lilac scent. So personally, I was chosen. But for most gentlemen, to find out whether you're truly chosen or not, you have to discuss it with the keeper of the keys. Yes, I'm speaking of your spouse, and keys as in Keeper of the Keys, is actually just a substitute word for keeper of your testicles. And so if the spouse likes it, you're home free. If the spouse doesn't like it, I guarantee you that bottle will never be touched, or it will be tossed in the closest dumpster. It's very similar to when you're talking about Scotch. You either like Laphroaig or you hate Laphroaig, and your spouse either likes Laphroaig or hates Laphroaig. But the difference with the Scotch is your spouse doesn't have to drink it. I happen to be chosen with the vegetable and Laphroaig. But most people look at Laphroaig and say it's like eating a Band-Aid while licking an ashtray. Well, it's just beautifully smoky Pete. This soap, I'm sorry, Williams, this stuff blows Williams out of the water, and Williams is good. This soap is acting very similar to some of your modern, really, really nice soaps like Panacrema, CBL, you name it. It is just a tremendous soap, and there's a ton of lather left in the brush. I'll check the residual slickness here in a little bit. But this soap is nice enough that I'll be able to do any cleanup because it's wonderful. So if you can find a vintage Colgate cake soap, if you can find that, or better yet, look for the Colgate cup soap, not the Colgate mug style. Because in the research also, people were saying that the mug style was a reformulation. But at the same time, in that same vein, I was finding people that said that the cup soap was horrible. Well, you guys are watching it, and I'm not some wizard when it comes to lather. But just look at that. I mean, it's just wonderfully, it's got great volume, wonderful slickness. So those guys that had trouble with the Colgate cup soap, think you're crazy, man. It's wonderful. You know what? I did my... Also in comments, did I do my Fool's Pass before I did this one? I think I did, but we're going to do it again just to make sure. Actually, I can tell that I did. From now on, we're calling when I forget where I'm at in a shave. We're going to call that the Nurse Dave factor. Yeah, I think I'm okay, but I'm thorough if nothing. Plus, I want to keep using this soap. I don't want to rinse any of this stuff out. It's that good. So yeah, if you can find the Colgate cup soap, the vintage, early vintage stuff, it's tremendous. But yeah, I did this already because the razor's just like, what are you doing, dude? There's nothing here. I'm shaving off skin. The residual slickness of this stuff is really good. I probably could have gotten away with just using water, but why? If you have the soap, use it. And it's kind of sad that I'm going to see a lot of this stuff go down the drain because wow. Almost made a mistake there. And a lot of people think, oh, okay, the larger razors, because of their heft, are much easier to wield. Well, that's true unless you make a mistake like I just did. Not switching hands and almost touching down. Because with that weight, the deepness of the incision, as they say, is much worse. We should be getting out of straight razors pretty soon, just to use some period specific DEs. So for the next series next week, it'll probably be a little bit of mix of both, because we're going to be using some single edge razors, gem style, that are period specific, as well as Gillette open combs that are period specific. Got a little spot on my chin, so this will give you an idea about the slickness. There we go. So yeah, just a beautiful shave. Wow. And that, I'm very impressed with that soap, because I've never like I said, never shaved with the Colgate cup soap. And it, wow. Sorry, Williams, original Williams. You'll have to take second fiddle on that one. Yeah, this one will definitely go down as a DS-BBS shave, depending on what Mr. Allen says. Nothing, well, a little bit, but nothing too bad. Wow, what a shave. And like I said, this was a very small load, and I still got tons of it. And I'll do some research, but I think we'll probably be entering, maybe not next shave, but the shave after, we'll be entering the world of Badger, I think. We won't see synthetics for quite a while, but I think I've got enough on the brush side to be fairly period specific for a while. And like I said, there'll be some repeats in brushes, I'm sure. Oh, what a beautiful shave. And for our witch hazel today, now I'm sure that period-wise, they probably had the lavender, maybe the lemon. Whether they had the cucumber or not, I don't know, but it fits with the lilac vegetal, so Thayer's. And Thayer's was available. It was probably a standard witch hazel, or maybe, well, I know for a fact that the rose witch hazel, they may have all been available, but cucumbers were probably hard to get, as far as fragrant stuff. The lemon, it's hard to say, but it may have been just a plain witch hazel. And so, again, our razor today for a period specific 1900 to 1910 is a George Wolstenholme & Sons IXL Celebrated from Sheffield, England. It is period specific, and it's an 8/8 for barber use. The shave soap today was Colgate cup soap. Not quite period specific, but they did have it back then, but it was called Colgate cake soap. So it's close. And based on the price, I think we're right in the ballpark. And like I said, this is not scientific. I'm not claiming that this is an expert stuff. Again, another period type specific brush in Boar. I can't even remember what the name. It's a no-name brush. Okay, here we go, guys. Are we chosen? Lilas de France or Panade Lilac Vegetal. Let's see what happens. Oh, God, I love the smell of this stuff. And yes, those of you that are probably throwing up right now. Oh, I just don't understand how anybody gets cat litter out of this, or cat urine, whatever they call it. I mean, you just go onto any web forum, and they're going to have something about about the lilac vegetable. It's one of the funniest threads you'll see anywhere is people that love it and people that hate it. I am still chosen, thankfully. Okay, we're using a talc that was available, time specific. This isn't, obviously, and that's Yardley. And this is their plain Jane talc. I think it's called Yardley Elegance. So very lightly fragranced, probably a little bit of some florals and some lavender, but it fits with the vegetal. Oh, in fact, it enhances it. Nice. Oh, that is such good stuff. If you haven't tried Panade Lilac Vegetal, do yourself a favor. Find out if you're chosen or not by both methods that we talked about earlier. And then if you're not, send it to me because I'll use it. I love this stuff. Oh, what a shave. Definitely a DSBBS shave fur, I think. And again, we're going to be using Floris Elite only because it was available time specific. It was one of their very first fragrances. And it was in cologne version, not EDT like this is. But at least, and this would only have been used when, people are going to court or going out to the opera or any of those places like that. So anyways, there you have it, folks. Shave of the Decades, part 2, 1900 to 1910. Tomorrow, join us for our next part 3, which will be 1910 to 1920. And what will the costume be? So I hope everybody has a wonderful Monday, and we'll see you again tomorrow.